I sat alone at a table built for 6 people. Around me, families laughed. Waiters carried trays loaded with turkey and stuffing. A couple 3 tables over held hands while their kids argued over who got the bigger slice of pie. The restaurant smelled like roasted garlic and warm bread, and I wanted to disappear. My phone sat face up next to the empty water glasses. No new messages. I'd texted my mom, Evelyn, 5 times in the last 3 hours. The first one at 4 p.m., still good for 7? Then 5:30. Leaving soon? Then 6:15. I'm here, got us a great table. 6:45. Everything okay? Nothing. Not even the little dots that show someone's typing. The waitress came back for the 4th time, smiling but clearly uncomfortable. Still waiting on your people? Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. They're just running late. Traffic, you know. She nodded, but I saw the pity in her eyes. She'd worked enough holidays to recognize someone being stood up. I pulled the menu closer and pretended to read it, even though I'd already memorized every word. My hands were steady, but my jaw hurt from clenching. I ordered the appetizer sampler just for one and told her I'd wait a little longer before ordering the main course. She didn't ask again. At 7:43, I gave up pretending and stepped outside. The cold hit me immediately, cutting through my jacket. The parking lot was packed, families streaming in and out, carrying leftovers in foil-wrapped containers. I stood under the awning, staring at my phone, trying to decide if I should call. That's when Paul's truck pulled into the lot. He spotted me immediately, parked, and walked over. His face told me he already knew. "Get in," he said. "It's freezing out here." I climbed into the passenger seat. Paul turned on the heater and looked at me. "You've been here 2 hours, haven't you?" "How did you know?" "Because I was at their house 20 minutes ago. They're all there. Evelyn, Sean, her sister, his brother. Full Thanksgiving spread. Football game on the TV. They're not coming, Jay." I felt my jaw clench. I need to hear it from her. Paul pulled out his phone and handed it to me. "Put it on speaker." I dialed Evelyn. She picked up on the 3rd ring. "Jared, what's up?" "What's up?" Like I'd called to chat about the weather. "Are you guys close?" I kept my voice steady. "I'm still at the restaurant." There was a pause. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of a football game in the background. Announcers yelling, a crowd roaring. And then Sean's voice, distant but clear. "Come on, that was a terrible call." Evelyn's tone shifted to something light, almost cheerful. "Oh, honey, we decided to do Thanksgiving at home this year. Didn't want the hassle of driving out. You know how traffic gets." I sat there, phone on speaker between Paul and me, watching my breath fog the cold window. In the background, I heard another voice. Evelyn's sister, maybe. Laughter, the clink of glasses. "I texted you 5 times, I said. "I know, I'm sorry. Things just got busy. You understand." She paused, and I thought, just for a second, that she might say something real, something that acknowledged what she'd just done. Instead, she said, "You'll be fine. You're resourceful." The line went dead. I stared at Paul's phone, not sad, not even surprised, just calculating. They weren't stuck in traffic. They weren't running late. They were home celebrating with people who mattered, and I wasn't one of them. Paul took his phone back and pressed something. "I recorded that. With your permission, I'm keeping it." I nodded. I couldn't speak yet. Paul stepped closer, pulling something from inside his coat, a thick manila envelope, the kind lawyers use. "What I'm about to show you ends this tonight," he said. We sat in Paul's truck with the heater running, parked under a streetlight at the edge of the lot. He didn't open the envelope right away. Instead, he looked at me the way he used to when I was a kid and scraped my knee. serious, but safe. "This isn't the first time," he said. It wasn't a question, and he was right. This wasn't the first time. It was just the loudest. I thought about the family photo from when I was 12. Evelyn had lined everyone up in the backyard. Sean, herself, their extended family. Then she'd turned to me and said, "Jared, step out for this one. This is just the core family." I'd stood behind the photographer and watched them smile. I thought about my high school graduation, top 10% of my class. Sean had shaken my hand and said, "Good, that's what we expected." No pride, no celebration, just confirmation that I'd met the minimum. I thought about my college acceptance letter. I'd gotten into a solid business program, something I'd worked 3 years to earn. Evelyn's first response wasn't "congratulations," it was, "How much will you need to borrow?" Like my achievement was a billing statement. Last Christmas, I'd bought them thoughtful gifts. A vintage record for Sean's collection. A cookbook Evelyn had mentioned months earlier. They gave me a $50 Amazon gift card in an envelope. No note, no message, just plastic and a number. But my grandfather, Paul was different. He was the only one who called me Jay. The only one who remembered my birthday without needing a Facebook reminder. The only one who asked how I was doing and actually waited for the answer. I should explain something. I'm not Evelyn and Sean's biological son. I'm Paul's grandson through his daughter, Evelyn's younger sister, who died in a car accident when I was 6. Paul was overseas on his final military deployment when it happened, still had 18 months left on his contract. Evelyn and Sean volunteered to take me in temporarily. Paul kept delaying bringing me to live with him, thinking I needed stability, thinking a 2-parent household was better than a grandfather still sorting out retirement. By the time Paul realized what was really happening, that they treated me like a favor they were doing instead of a kid who'd lost his mother, I was already 12. And by then, Evelyn had convinced everyone, including Paul for a while, that moving me would be too disruptive. So I stayed. And for 15 years, they held that sacrifice over my head like I owed them a debt for not letting me go into the system. I'm 21 now, building my own business, and still chasing approval from people who never planned to give it. Paul didn't let me open the envelope right away. He kept it on the dashboard while the truck's heater hummed, warming the cold air between us. Outside, families kept streaming in and out of the restaurant, carrying their happiness like it was the easiest thing in the world. "Why did you plan this dinner?" Paul asked. I took a breath. I needed to know if I was losing my mind, if I was making up the distance, or if it was real. "And you thought one meal would tell you?" I thought one meal where they actually showed up and acted like they wanted to be there, just once, would tell me I'd been wrong about everything. I stared at my hands. I sent the invitations 3 weeks early. I called twice to confirm. I picked Evelyn's favorite restaurant. I even offered to pay for everything so money wouldn't be an excuse. Paul nodded, waiting for me to finish. I made myself a rule, I continued. If they showed up and tried, really tried, I'd stop doubting. I'd stop feeling like I was renting space in their lives. But if they didn't, I trailed off. "You'd stop chasing," Paul finished. "Yeah." He pulled his phone from his pocket and swiped it a few times, then handed it to me. "Before you open that envelope, you need to see this." It was a Facebook post, Evelyn's profile, posted 48 minutes ago. The photo showed their dining room table crowded with people. Evelyn sat at the head, smiling wide. Sean stood behind her with a beer in hand, mid-laugh. I recognized Evelyn's sister and her husband, Sean's brother and his kids. Maybe 8 or 9 people total, all gathered around a table loaded with turkey, mashed potatoes, and pie. The caption read, "Grateful for family that shows up with emojis." I stared at the timestamp. 6:50 p.m., That was 10 minutes before I'd texted Evelyn asking if they were close. 10 minutes before I'd stood in that parking lot like an idiot, thinking they were stuck in traffic. They weren't running late, I said quietly. No, Paul said. They were celebrating without you. I scrolled through the comments. Evelyn's friends posting heart emojis, someone saying, "Beautiful family." Another comment, "This is what it's all about." I handed the phone back. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't crying. I just felt cold, and not from the weather. They didn't exclude me by accident, I said. They chose this. Paul took the phone and slipped it back into his coat. I've been watching this happen for 15 years, Jay. I kept thinking maybe I was being too hard on them. Maybe Evelyn was just busy, and Sean was just distant because that's how he is. But tonight made it clear. They didn't forget you. They erased you. Why now? I asked. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm done pretending it's normal. He said he reached for the envelope and held it in both hands, like it weighed more than paper. I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting. I nodded. I've been keeping records, Paul said. Not because I'm paranoid, because I recognized a pattern, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining it. What kind of records? Dates, conversations, money. Paul's voice stayed level, but I could hear the anger underneath. Every time Evelyn called you in the last 2 years, I wrote it down. You know what I found? She only calls when she needs something. A ride to the airport. Help moving furniture. Someone to co-sign a loan. I opened my mouth to argue, but stopped. He was right. Last June, Paul continued, Evelyn asked you to co-sign a car loan for her. You did it because you thought it would show her you cared. But when you asked if you could meet her for coffee that same week, she didn't even respond. Do you remember that? I did. I'd brushed it off as her being busy. 3 months ago, Paul said, Sean sent an email to the whole family about planning a reunion next summer. He CC'd everyone. His brother, his cousins, Evelyn's sister, everyone except you. That one I hadn't known about. And the money, Paul added, his voice getting harder. I pulled your Venmo history. Don't look at me like that. You gave me access when you were helping me set up my account last year. Evelyn's requested $4,700 from you over the last 2 years. Groceries, bills, an emergency car repair. You sent every penny. She never paid you back. She never even said thank you. I felt something twist in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. Why are you keeping track of this? Because I've seen this before, Paul said. I've seen families treat kids like projects instead of people. I've seen parents take and take until there's nothing left, and then act surprised when the kid finally walks away. I wasn't going to let that happen to you without you knowing the truth. He set the envelope in my lap. What's in here isn't a guess. It's not me being overprotective. It's legal, documented proof that Sean and Evelyn have been using you. Using me for what? Convenience. Money. The appearance of being good people who took in a kid. Paul's voice dropped. And I'm done watching them profit from someone they treat like a burden. I looked down at the envelope. My name was written across the front in Paul's handwriting. Underneath, in smaller letters. Open when you're ready to stop asking for what you deserve and start taking it back. What's inside? I asked. Paul leaned back in his seat, eyes forward. These consequences, real ones, the kind they can't talk their way out of or guilt you into forgiving. He turned to look at me. But once you open it, there's no going back. You need to be sure. I thought about Evelyn's voice on the phone. You'll be fine. You're resourceful. I thought about the Facebook post, the smiling faces, the family that showed up. I thought about 15 years of feeling like I was one mistake away from being tolerated instead of loved. I'm sure, I said. Paul nodded once. Then open it. Before we continue, if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. I pulled the first document from the envelope. The letterhead read, Mitchell and Associates, Estate Planning Attorneys. Below that, in bold print, Last Will and Testament of Paul Richard Gilbert. The paper was heavy, official, dated 3 days ago. You updated your will? I asked. Paul nodded. Keep reading. I scanned the legal language, most of its standard boilerplate about sound mind and legal capacity. Then I reached Section 4, Distribution of Assets. My hands stopped moving. The estate was valued at $2.3 million. Paul had built that over 40 years. Military pension, rental properties, smart investments. The original will had split everything equally among his 3 children, Evelyn, her brother Michael, and her sister Ruth. But this new version was different. Evelyn Marie Gilbert and her spouse Sean Thomas Gilbert are hereby removed as primary beneficiaries. Each shall receive a one-time payment of $5,000 to be distributed within 30 days of the testator's death. All remaining assets shall be placed in trust, with Jared Matthew Gilbert named as executor and primary beneficiary. I read it twice, then a third time. You're cutting them out, I said. I'm removing people who've spent 15 years treating you like a transaction, Paul corrected. There's a difference. Paul, I don't want your money. That's not why He held up a hand. Stop. This isn't about making you rich. This is about making sure they understand that actions have consequences. They've spent years using you when it's convenient and ignoring you when it's not. They don't get rewarded for that. I kept reading. There was a no contest clause buried in the legal text. If Evelyn or Sean challenged the will, they'd forfeit the $5,000 and receive nothing. The document had been witnessed by 2 people and notarized. It was airtight. They're going to lose their minds, I said. Good, Paul replied. Maybe they'll finally feel a fraction of what they've put you through. I set the document down, but Paul pulled a second packet from the envelope. This one was thicker, bound with a black clip. That's the legal part. This is the proof. The first page was a printout of a text conversation between Evelyn and me from last June. I remembered this exchange. Evelyn had needed someone to co-sign a car loan because her credit was too low. She'd asked if I could help, said it was urgent, promised she'd handle all the payments herself. I signed the paperwork the next day. 2 days later, I texted asking if she wanted to grab coffee. She'd read the message. The blue check marks proved it, but never responded. Paul had highlighted both, my unanswered request and her immediate reply when she needed the co-signature. The next page was a bank statement showing Venmo transactions. I hadn't realized how many there were until I saw them listed together. Evelyn's requests stretched back 26 months. The total at the bottom read $4,700. I'd sent every payment within hours. She'd never paid me back, not once. I didn't even notice, I muttered. That's how it works, Paul said. They take small enough amounts that you don't feel the weight until someone adds it up for you. The third document was an email chain. Sean had sent it to the extended family 3 months ago. Subject line, Gilbert Family Reunion, Summer 2026 Planning. He'd CC'd 12 people, aunts, uncles, cousins, Paul, everyone except me. I wasn't even an afterthought. I just didn't exist in their version of family. I flipped to the last page. Paul had created a timeline, annotating every instance over the past 3 years, where Evelyn had contacted me only when she needed something, then disappeared when I tried to maintain a relationship. 22 entries. 22 times the pattern repeated. At the bottom, Paul had written, "This is not a family. This is a transaction log." I closed the packet and set it on the dashboard. My hands were steady, but everything inside me felt rearranged. "What am I supposed to do with this?" I asked. Paul reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a business card. Mitchell and Associates, the same law firm from the will. "There's a meeting tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., my lawyer's office." "What kind of meeting?" I told Evelyn and Sean it's a routine estate planning update. Something about verifying beneficiaries and signing paperwork. I said attendance was required. I stared at him. "They think they're going to lock in their inheritance." "Yes. But they're actually walking into a formal will reading," Paul finished, "with a lawyer, a neutral witness, and documentation they can't argue with. They'll learn they've been removed, and they'll learn exactly why, in a room where they can't manipulate you, guilt you, or rewrite the story." My pulse quickened. "You set a trap." "I set a boundary," Paul corrected, "with teeth, and tomorrow morning, they're going to find out what happens when you treat someone like they're disposable." He started the truck. "Go home, get some sleep. Tomorrow we make sure they understand that you're done being their emergency contact and their punching bag." I held the envelope against my chest as Paul pulled out of the parking lot. Behind us, the restaurant glowed warm and full. Ahead, the road stretched, dark and quiet. For the first time, I wasn't chasing their approval. I was taking back my power. I didn't sleep that night. Paul had offered me his guest room, but I spent most of the hours until dawn sitting at his kitchen table, reading through the documents over and over. The will, the receipts, the timeline. Every piece of evidence Paul had collected felt like a puzzle piece I'd been missing my entire life, and now the full picture was finally clear. Around 4 a.m, Paul came downstairs and found me still awake. He didn't say anything at first, just put on a pot of coffee and sat across from me. "You ready for this?" he asked. I looked up from the packet of Venmo transactions. "I don't know what I'm supposed to feel right now." "You don't have to feel anything," Paul said. "That's the point. You've spent 15 years trying to earn something they were never going to give you. Tomorrow, you stop auditioning." He was right. I'd spent so long wondering what I'd done wrong, how I could fix it, what I needed to change to make them see me. But the problem was never me. It was them. Paul pulled a notepad across the table. "Let's talk about what's going to happen in that room." For the next hour, he walked me through every scenario. How Evelyn would try to guilt me. How Sean would try to intimidate me. How they'd twist the narrative to make themselves the victims. Paul made me practice responses until my voice stayed level and my answers stayed short. "When Evelyn says she sacrificed everything for you, what do you say?" Paul asked. "Nothing," I replied. "I let the lawyer finish reading." "When Sean threatens to contest the will?" "Nothing. The lawyer handles it." "When Evelyn cries?" I hesitated on that one. "Jared," Paul said firmly, "when Evelyn cries, what do you do?" "Nothing," I said. "Because tears don't erase 15 years, Paul nodded. "Good. Remember that. You're not there to argue or defend yourself. You're there to witness consequences. The documents do the talking. You just have to show up and refuse to negotiate." At 9:30, we got in Paul's truck and drove to the law office. The building was a clean, modern structure in the business district. All glass windows and neutral gray walls. Professional, impersonal. Exactly what this needed to be. The receptionist directed us to a conference room on the 3rd floor. The lawyer, Mitchell, was already there. A man in his mid-50s with wire-frame glasses and a calm, authoritative presence. Next to him sat David Wu, Paul's longtime friend and a retired fire chief. He was there as the witness. "Jared," Mitchell said, shaking my hand. "Your grandfather has briefed me on the situation. I want you to understand that once we begin, my job is to read the will and answer legal questions. I'm neutral. I'm not here to mediate family conflict." "I understand," I said. Good. Mitchell gestured to a chair. Sit wherever you're comfortable. When Mr. and Mrs. Gilbert arrive, I'll handle the opening. You don't need to say anything unless you choose to. I sat near the window, putting distance between myself and the door. Paul sat at the head of the table. David sat across from Mitchell, his presence solid and quiet. At 10:02, Evelyn and Sean arrived. Evelyn walked in first, wearing her church outfit, the one she used when she wanted to look respectable. She smiled wide when she saw Paul. Dad, happy belated Thanksgiving. Sorry we missed Jared yesterday, things just got so hectic. She moved toward me like she was going to hug me. I stayed seated, hands folded on the table. She stopped mid-step, confused. Sean followed her in, dressed in a suit like he'd come from something important. He shook Paul's hand, nodded at Mitchell, and barely glanced at me. Let's make this quick. I have a call at 11. Mitchell gestured to the chairs across from me. Please, sit. We have several items to cover. Evelyn settled into her seat, still smiling. Sean checked his watch. Neither of them seemed worried. They thought this was routine. They thought they were here to secure their share of Paul's estate. Mitchell opened a folder and pulled out the will. Thank you both for coming. Paul has asked me to facilitate an update to his estate planning. As of November 26th, he executed an amended last will and testament. Evelyn nodded along, relaxed. Mitchell continued, his voice steady and professional. The estate is currently valued at approximately 2.3 million florins, consisting of real property, investment accounts, and pension assets. Under the previous will, this was to be divided equally among Paul's 3 children. Sean leaned back in his chair, already mentally spending his share. Mitchell's tone didn't change. The amended will reflects the following distribution. Paul's son Michael and daughter Ruth will each receive their 1/3 portions as previously outlined. However, Evelyn Gilbert and Sean Gilbert are removed as primary beneficiaries. Each will receive a one-time payment of $5,000 to be distributed within 30 days of Paul's death. All remaining assets will be placed in trust, with Jared Gilbert named as executor and primary beneficiary. The room went silent. Evelyn blinked. Wait, what? Sean sat up straight. You're cutting us out? Let me finish, Mitchell said calmly. The amendment includes a no contest clause. If either of you challenges this will, you forfeit the $5,000 and receive nothing. The decision is final and has been witnessed and notarized according to state law. Evelyn's face shifted from confusion to panic. Dad, this is a joke, right? You can't be serious. Paul's expression didn't change. I'm completely serious. After everything we did for this family, Evelyn's voice pitched higher. We took Jared in when no one else wanted him. We fed him, clothed him, put a roof over his head. Mitchell interrupted, his voice still neutral. Mrs. Gilbert, the will includes an attached statement from Paul explaining his decision. Would you like me to read it? Yes, Sean snapped. I want to hear what possible justification. Mitchell pulled a second sheet and read aloud. Due to a sustained pattern of emotional neglect and financial exploitation of my grandson Jared Gilbert, I am exercising my legal right to redirect my estate. This decision is based on documented evidence spanning multiple years, including but not limited to instances of exclusion from family events, requests for financial assistance without reciprocation, and deliberate acts of emotional harm. Evelyn turned to Paul, her eyes wide. Exploitation? We gave him everything. You gave him a place to sleep, Paul said quietly. That's not the same as a home. Sean stood up. This is insane. You're letting him manipulate you. Jared's been poisoning you against us. Sit down, Mr. Gilbert, Mitchell said firmly. We're not finished. Sean stayed standing, but David Wu rose from his chair. He didn't say anything, just stood there, 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, a man who'd spent 30 years walking into dangerous situations without flinching. Sean sat down. Mitchell pulled out another document. Paul has also provided supporting evidence. Mrs. Gilbert, are you aware that over the past 26 months, you've requested a total of $4,700 from Jared via electronic payment platforms? Evelyn's face went pale. None of which was repaid, Mitchell added. That was family helping family, Evelyn said weakly. Was it also family helping family when you excluded Jared from tonight's Thanksgiving celebration while simultaneously requesting his presence at a dinner he planned and paid for? Mitchell pressed a button on a small device. The audio started playing. My voice first. Are you guys close? I'm still at the restaurant. Then Evelyn's response, casual and cheerful. Oh, honey, we decided to do Thanksgiving at home this year. The background. Noise was unmistakable. The football game, Sean yelling at the TV, laughter. Then Evelyn's final line. You'll be fine. You're resourceful. The recording stopped. Evelyn's hands shook. That's out of context. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Paul said. You've used Jared when it's convenient and erased him when it's not. That ends today. Sean slammed his hand on the table. We'll contest this. No judge will side with you based on some phone call and guilt trip payment apps. Mitchell didn't flinch. Mr. Gilbert, I've already explained the no contest clause. If you challenge this will, you forfeit everything. Additionally, there are 3 witnesses to this reading, and the documentation is extensive. I've practiced estate law for 28 years. This will is airtight. David Wu spoke for the first time, his voice low and steady. I've known Paul for 40 years. I've watched you two treat Jared like a chore since he was a kid. Paul's doing what's right. You don't get to profit from what you broke. Evelyn turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Jared, honey, please. You can't let him do this. We're your family. We took you in when you had nothing. Don't you remember? I stood up, cutting her off. My voice came out calm, controlled. You didn't raise me, Evelyn. You managed me. There's a difference. I picked up my jacket from the back of the chair and walked toward the door. Behind me, Evelyn's voice cracked. You're going to regret this. I stopped at the doorway and looked back at her. The only thing I regret is how long it took me to stop paying for my own disrespect. I walked out. Paul followed me 30 seconds later. I didn't hear from Evelyn or Sean for the rest of that Friday. Paul drove us back to his house after the meeting, and we sat in the kitchen while he made coffee. My hands were still steady. My breathing was still calm. Something had shifted in that conference room, not just legally, but inside me. How do you feel? Paul asked. Free, I said. And I meant it. Paul slid a folder across the table. Inside were the executor documents, contact information for his financial advisor, and a letter of recommendation he'd written for my business weeks ago. The letter detailed my character and work ethic in language that actually opened doors, the kind of validation Sean and Evelyn had never given me. You won't see any inheritance for years, Paul said. I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. But you're the executor now. That means you have authority if anything happens to me. And it means they can't touch anything without going through you first. Thank you, I said quietly. Paul shook his head. Don't thank me for what you deserved from the start. Just remember something. Cutting them off isn't cruelty. It's refusing to pay for your own disrespect. When they come back, and they will, don't negotiate. Don't explain. Just say no. That night, my phone started buzzing around 10 p.m. Evelyn, I let it go to voicemail. She called 14 times over the next 3 hours. I listened to the first message, crying, begging me to fix this. The second was anger. How could you do this to us? The third was guilt. after everything we sacrificed. By the 8th message, she was threatening to expose how I'd manipulated a sick old man. I forwarded all of them to Mitchell and blocked her number. Saturday morning, Sean sent an email. Subject line: "We need to talk like adults." 3 paragraphs of corporate language that boiled down to, "Let's discuss this before you regret it." I deleted it without responding. Sunday, Evelyn sent a long email from a different address I hadn't blocked yet. It started with nostalgia about holidays when I was younger, shifted to self-pity about how they'd made mistakes but tried their best, and ended with veiled threats about consulting lawyers. I forwarded it to Mitchell and blocked that address too. By Monday, I thought maybe they'd finally accepted reality. I was wrong. Friday morning, exactly 1 week after the lawyer's office, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Jared?" Evelyn's voice was frantic, breathless. She'd been crying. "How did you get this number? Please, just listen. I need you to do something." I should have hung up, but I wanted to see if Paul was right. I wanted to know if they'd learned anything. "We're losing the house," Evelyn said, words tumbling over each other. "Sean lost his job 6 months ago. We're 2 mortgage payments behind. The bank sent a foreclosure notice yesterday. Your grandfather has money sitting in accounts doing nothing. If you just talk to him, convince him to help us. This is serious, Jared. We could lose everything." The cold clarity hit me immediately. "You're calling to ask for money. It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," I said. "You stood me up on Thanksgiving. You spent 15 years making me feel like I owed you for taking me in after my mom died, your own sister. And the first time you call after getting cut from the will is to ask for money. Do you even hear yourself?" "Family helps family," Evelyn shot back. "I know things have been hard between us, but we're not family," I interrupted. "You made that clear every time you introduced me as just Jared instead of your nephew. Every time you left me out of photos. Every time you only reached out when you needed something. I'm done being your emergency fund and your guilt project." Her voice changed completely. The tears vanished, replaced by cold rage. "After everything we gave you, we took you in when you had nowhere to go. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head, and this is how you repay us? You're selfish. You're ungrateful. You always have been." I hung up. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. Paul had been exactly right. They didn't come back to apologize. They didn't come back to repair anything. They came back because they needed something, exactly like they always had. Over the next 2 weeks, the fallout spread quietly through the family. David Wu's testimony from the lawyer's office carried weight. He was respected, credible, impossible to dismiss. Paul's daughter Ruth called Evelyn once, listened to her side, then said, "I heard the Thanksgiving recording. Don't contact me again." By the end of the month, Sean and Evelyn's financial collapse was complete. They'd been counting on Paul's inheritance to cover their debts, and now that safety net was gone. When Evelyn tried to show up at Paul's house unannounced, she found out he'd already filed a no trespass notice with the local police. 1 month after that lawyer's office meeting, Paul invited me to dinner. Nothing fancy, just the 2 of us at his kitchen table, lasagna and garlic bread. We talked about my business, his rental properties, and a book he was reading. It was the opposite of that Thanksgiving restaurant. No empty chairs. No waiting, no performance, just 2 people who actually wanted to be there. "This is what family looks like," Paul said as we cleaned up. "Remember that." Ruth called me a week later. We'd never been close. She lived 3 states away, and I'd only met her a handful of times growing up. "I need you to know something," she said. "I suspected Evelyn wasn't treating you right, but she was always so good at managing appearances. At family reunions, She played the devoted aunt, and you seemed fine. I thought maybe I was reading too much into it. But when I heard that recording, when I saw Paul's documentation, I realized how deep it went. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I told her it wasn't her job to fix what Evelyn broke, but it helped knowing someone believed me. Some people spend their whole lives chasing approval from people who were never going to give it. I'm not one of them anymore. If this story resonates with you and you want more like this, hit subscribe. And do me a favor, comment below and tell me where you're listening from. Are you commuting? Working out? Relaxing at home? I'd love to know.